Okay, here we go. Another day, another dollar, right? Hope so. So, today I want to talk about, you're out there and you're being a good little reseller and you're flipping hangers and you're finding lots of really cool things that you think you can make some money on, getting some deals. You come home, you're still being a good little reseller because you don't put these things in your death pile. You start taking pictures right away. And all of a sudden you realize there's something wrong with this piece of clothing that you bought. So I want to talk about that. Because believe me, I have done it more times than I can tell you. And it irritates me every single time because I thought I had something good and then there's something wrong with it and either I can't sell it and I spent money on it and And if you hear that ding, 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 ding in the back, that's some wash tubs. I got a project coming up, but that's a different video for later. So I just wanted to give you some things to think about when you're out there sourcing for clothes and you're inspecting them. And the first thing is you want to make sure that you got a quality piece of clothing, okay? So we want to stay away from brands that they typically sell at places like Walmart and Target because they're not as well made. I mean, that's not 100% because I have found new with tags, these little pajama bottoms, they're like shorts, and there was a whole bunch of them and they were half price, so I got them like 75 cents a piece and I'm selling them for about 10. So while it's not big money, the markup is pretty good and I'm doing okay with them. But for the most part, I try to stay away from the fast fashion. That also includes things like Forever 21, Rue, whatever it is, all those kind of stores. Try to stay away from those brands. You want to look for something a little bit higher quality. And I'm not saying don't get your bread and butter things that you would find in a department store, but you want to stay away from those low-end department stores. I'll just put it that way. Okay, so make sure that the brands are good. Check your comps because sometimes things just aren't quite what you thought they were. So look it up and see what's selling and what the return on investment is. In other words, how many are there that are listed versus how many are actually selling. Okay. And what the price is, because for instance, if you're in a store and they're charging you $5 for say a jacket, but they're only selling for 10, and then you have to take into account your time, your fees, that's not really a good return on investment, okay? But if it's $50, that's different. For $5 to turn it into 50, even with the fees, you're going to make some decent money. Okay? So you want to check those things. Because the clothing market, I will say this, the clothing market is flooded. We have an actual problem in our country with clothing, okay? Because basically we're buying disposable clothing. And I'm no different. Like, I can tell you everything I'm wearing today, except for my flip-flops, I bought at Walmart. And I have my reasons because I clean and I destroy everything. But I do buy clothes at thrift stores too. I just happen to buy everything I'm wearing today, including my underwear, came from Walmart. My shoes actually came from Kroger, but I like my shoes. So anyway, yes, we live in an era right now where clothing is disposable. We're buying disposable clothing. It's not meant to last. So, the value of it is not that great. So we want to make sure that the brands that we're buying are more sustainable, I'll just put it that way, but higher quality. And also the material that they're made out of, okay? So your natural fibers, of course, cotton, wool, silk, linen, and now they're coming out with newer fibers like flax and bamboo, and they're turning those into fabrics. Those are a little bit more valuable. And then even if recycled plastics that they're turning into fibers, those can be valuable as well. So, but you want to check it and make sure because, like I said, quality counts. Quality definitely counts. Okay? And not only that, but the other thing you want to check out for is, make sure that you're not selling fake. So you might find yourself a designer brand. It's labeled as a designer, but when you look at it closely, you can see like the stitching's uneven. There's just flaws in the actual quality of the piece. It might be a fake. And you don't want to sell fakes, okay? And I've seen tons of fakes out there. When I'm out sourcing, I saw a Prada bag for $2, but when you look at it, it was such a horrible quality. It wasn't even funny. Like, you could spot it without even touching it. It was so bad. That particular one. But believe me, the counterfeiters are getting really good at what they do. So you definitely want to make sure, if you're looking at something, excuse me, higher end, that it's not a counterfeit, okay? So that's the first thing. Is it even worth picking it up? And then, check it over for stains. Clothing a lot of times will have stains and little defects in it, which may or may not be a problem. So for instance, if it's a bleach stain, you're not going to correct that. Now, you may have to weigh something out, because if it's $1,000 handbag maybe, and it has an ink stain on it, can you get the ink stain off? Is it still worth considerably more than what you're going to pay for it, even with these little signs of wear and tear? It may or may not be. Most of the stuff that I sell really isn't, if there's a defect, it's really not worth it for me to pick it up, to be honest with you, because people just don't want that. They want something that's a higher quality, or in better condition, I should put it that way, better condition. They know it's used, but was it worn to shreds, or was it taken care of, or maybe only worn once or twice? So that's important to notice, is if it's full of stains. The other thing is, sometimes it might just be a little piece of food stain, like somebody spilt something here, and then they just donated it, and they didn't bother to wash it, okay? And I gotta tell you the truth. First of all, every platform that I sell on requires that clothing be clean, okay? That's a requirement of the terms of service. And so if I see something that, looks like they might have just spilt a little something on their shirt and it'll wash out, that may not be such a big deal. But if it's something like, wine stain or ink or mustard or something like that, that you have a harder time washing it out, you may want to consider leaving that behind, because you're going to have to point those things out when you're shopping. So you're going to look for stains. And you need to check all over that garment, because pants could have stains down around the hems or the cuffs. They can have stains in the lap area. They can have stains on the back of them because somebody sat on something, So you want to make sure you check front and back, top, bottom, even on the inside. I had a dress one time that on the outside it looked fine, but on the inside it had a lining, and there was a little mildew stain on the inside. And even though, if somebody wore it, you would never know that. But, mildew is disgusting. So you might even want to check the linings and make sure that they're in good condition too. Okay, so stains. And then the other thing you want to check for is alterations. A lot of people will, especially shorter people, they may have to put a hem in the bottom of either the pants or a skirt or a dress, because they're short, right? And the dress is too long, or the pants are too long. And not everybody wants that. Now, I would say that's probably the least of all problems. It could be a problem based on the brand. For instance, say you have an Alfred Dunner top, okay? So the Alfred Dunner people are usually, not always, but usually an older, more conservative type, okay? So, but I had an Alfred Dunner top one time. It was a really cute top, but they hemmed it so that it was more like a crop top. And, that's not going to sell to somebody who's the typical buyer for that kind of brand, okay? So, alterations in and of themselves aren't necessarily bad. Same thing with a lot of pants, you want to check the waist and see if there's alterations there, because especially now that ladies are getting implants in their backside, so what happens is you have what's the word I want to use? There's a bigger difference between the hip and the waist measurement. So somebody who has an ample hip may have to have alterations in the waist in order for the pants to fit them properly, and then, you know, that if somebody else may not fit in that particular size, and it is a change on the size, you know, because the dressmaker or the sizes are determined on average body sizes. So that's an issue right now going on in our fashion industry, and what people are doing cosmetically to their body versus what's happening with the clothes that are being manufactured. There's a difference. The same thing in the bust area. Somebody may have to have something altered in the waist for dresses and things like that if they happen to be bustier type of woman. Can't say so much for men because I'm not an expert on men, but I know that, you know, there's it's one of those things that falls under the pink tax, they call it, where a lot of men's clothing includes, you know, for more formal type clothing anyway, includes alterations. And so men's clothes, you know, really are fitted for the body of the person who's going to be wearing that outfit. So you do want to make sure that you include all the things that are going to be a determining factor of how this is going to fit somebody. Okay, and I did tell you to check for comps. You also want to check your tags, not just for the brand, but you want to make sure that the size, I don't know why, well, I do kind of know why. A lot of people will cut the tags out because the tags are uncomfortable, and tagless is actually a feature that, you know, may help sell something if it's a tagless item. But your tags also tell you your fabric content, what it's made out of, and how to take care of your garments. So tags are really, really important, especially size, but all of these things play into whether or not you're going to be able to sell the piece, even though it might be a good quality piece of clothing. Are the tags there? And it also gives you information, because if somebody has an allergy, say, to wool, and you're selling a wool sweater, you know, they don't want to buy something if they don't know if it contains that fiber or not. So yeah, you want to make sure that all the tags are there, and that it includes the size and every other thing that's important to know about that piece of clothing. And so other things that you need to check, just the details. So things like, are all the buttons there? Do the zippers work? I've had so many times I'll buy a pair of jeans and they're really cool. They might have some really neat embellishments on them, and I get it home and the zipper's broken in some way or another, that it doesn't work. I did get a jacket one time. It was a really neat jacket and I did sell it, and what was wrong with it was that the tab part of the zipper was missing, but the zipper worked. It just didn't have that little pull tab part. And somebody that I know, I was telling them about it, and I was kind of bummed that it, you know, and I was trying to figure out what I could do to make it a wearable jacket, because it was a good jacket. And they just happened to have a replacement tab. So you could have yourself a little repair kit where you have needle and thread and maybe some of that, what do they call it, liquid stitch or something like that. Things that you can do to repair clothing if it's just a minor thing. It would save you if you spent, especially if you had to pay up for something. Just make sure that if you do have to do a repair, that you point it out in your listings, okay? And make sure that it's something that you at least have somewhat decent kind of skills, you know. So yeah, make sure that everything's in working order, and that includes other things like sometimes I'll see something and I think it's really nice, like a dress or tops, even like a longer top, and on the side there's little loops. Well, this thing probably came with a belt, but the belt's not there anymore, you know. Is it worth picking up? I don't know, you know, sometimes I think not. Sometimes maybe it just, a lot of it's going to depend on the brand and the maker and all these other factors that play in. Okay, so make sure everything's working that's supposed to work. And then you want to check areas, actually I would say check everything from top to bottom for signs of wear, pills, again, staining or tears. Places like under the armpits, they get pilly sometimes there. In the crotch of pants, not just in the actual crotch itself, but down the inseam, they can get pills there, or sometimes even the seam will open up from people wearing where their legs rub together. On collared tops, you want to look even behind the collar. It was kind of embarrassing one time. I sold a top, a man's shirt, and didn't realize that it was torn where the collar folds over against towards the shoulder. Underneath there was a tear. The customer sent me a picture, and I never even saw it, even after I took all the photographs and everything, and I just never lifted the collar up and looked, so you want to check those places, make sure that there's no holes in the pockets. Another thing that I put in my listings that I think helps sell is, and I don't even know if people are aware of this, but when you buy like a jacket or a pair of dress pants, like a blazer I'm talking about, and they have pockets, do you know that the manufacturer actually has those sewn shut, but there's actually a pocket there? And so I'll put that in there, that the manufacturer's stitching is still intact if it's so, meaning that those pockets have never been used, so in a case like that, there shouldn't be, unless there's a defect in the actual manufacturing, there shouldn't be a problem with holes in those pockets, but you want to check that and make sure that there's no holes in the pockets. And the final thing, like I mentioned, the crotch of pants. This is really, really important because lots of things happen there. I don't think I need to go into details. You can use your imagination, but you want to check inside of pants, bathing suits, shorts, things like that, jumpers, to check the crotch, because you may not see something on the outside, but it's on the inside, and it can be kind of gross and be the difference on whether or not you wasted your money or not. So check that. And then my final little tip is, okay, so, well, I have two tips. There is a sentence on eBay specifically that says that you need to write in your description how you cleaned this garment, okay? All garment. Now, you can't sell used socks and underwear on eBay, but you can sell brassieres. They're not considered underwear, so you can sell them used, but you want to make sure that you put in there whether it's dry cleaned or whatever. I personally do not dry clean clothing that I'm going to sell. I kind of weigh it out. Okay, so here's what I do. If it's something like wool or silk that I know from experience, having been raised by somebody who grew up poor, you can wash these fabrics by hand, okay? And then you line dry them, or you dry them flat like sweaters. If it's a wool sweater, you lay it down flat. You don't hang it, because if you hang it, it's going to get stretched out and it'll get like bumps in the shoulders depending on what you do. You don't hang sweaters. You lay them flat. So I will do that. Now it's going to depend, because some things, the colors will bleed if you get it wet. So you really have to know what you're doing as far as dry cleaning. But if I'm not worried about the colors bleeding, I'll hand wash it. But everything else, most clothing is machine washable, and I wash every single thing that I'm ready to resell, unless I happen to know the person who's selling, if I'm getting donated things, and I know that person is really good about cleaning their clothes, it all gets washed, okay? It all gets washed. And the reason why, not just because it's the policy, but also for myself, specifically or particularly if I'm outsourcing from a thrift store or a yard sale or places like that is because I don't really know where this thing has been before I got a hold of it. And there's certain things like bed bugs. So textiles, that includes things like blankets and tablecloths and linens, those kind of things. I wash them too. And the reason why is because I don't want to be bringing something into my house, and contaminating my house, or handling clothes that have things that I could catch on my body. I'll just put it that way. So I do wash every single thing. And what I do is I usually bring my laundry detergent with me. I don't put fabric softener in. I really try to keep as much product off the product as possible and still get the clothing clean. So I may bring a spot treater, but I don't use fabric softener. And I try to use something that doesn't have a strong scent as far as my laundry detergent goes. And I go from the thrift store to the laundromat. I don't even bring it in my house. I had a bad experience with thinking that I could do this at home, and so I personally don't ever do it anymore. I suppose you could bag the stuff up and just keep it in the bags until you're ready to wash it if you're going to wash it at home. But I don't even take a chance anymore. I just don't. It goes straight to the laundromat. Some things you can wash in the washing machine, but they have to be line dried or flat dried or things like that. So, I separate it out. I always know what the cleaning requirements are before I just throw things willy-nilly into the washing machine. And I wash it on cold. I wash everything on cold, even though there's some controversy over that. I just know that since I've started doing this, I haven't had any problems. I haven't picked up any funguses or any kind of communicable whatevers, that people can spread from person to person. I haven't had a problem with any kinds of insects or whatnot coming into my house since I've started doing this. So, and then I dry everything that I can dry. And if I can't dry it, then I hang it up when I, get it home. And that's that. A little side note, if you're going to sell bras, and this is in general, you should never throw your bras in the dryer, okay? So my used bras, I check the elastic. That's another thing you need to check too, is the elastic on anything that has elastic, because old elastic will deteriorate and it'll lose its stretch. So you want to check that too. I forgot to mention that. But I check the straps and make sure that they're not curling and that they still have their stretch. And I never throw brassieres in the dryer, because I don't know if you've ever seen that, but the arm strap part of them, if they get too hot, then they start curling up. They look like curly fries, so I never throw those in the dryer at all, ever. They get hung dry, and so that's how I take care of those. So I do hope that this has been helpful for you. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to help you with that. I think I'm going to do another video on hard goods and things. That is really a very extensive list, but I'll go over some key tips that I have to help you out, and I'll do another video on that, things that I sell and what I look for. But please, again, if you have questions, don't forget to ask, or don't hesitate to ask. Hit the subscribe button. That really helps me out, and give me a thumbs up if you thought that this was a valuable video. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.